Welcome to another video for the Catalyst Book Club. My name is Daniel. I am one of the members here. I made my first video right at the end of November, right about the beginning of December. So I made that just kind of as an intro with the book When, to kind of introduce the club and the books that we were doing at the time and how everything functions. So this is really going to be my first video with a book as the focus that we've worked on, and I'm doing things a little bit out of order here because like I said, I did that video back in November, so it's been quite a while since I've done anything, so been a bit behind, but I've been focusing a lot on getting some of the graphics done and upping the quality of those, doing a little bit more, I guess you'd say maybe outreach, just trying to connect with people and let them know that there is something like this out there. Again, the group, if you're new to this, is for personal growth and business development. So we do go through 2 books a month, one for each of those subjects. And I'll go ahead and just kind of get right into the video. So the first book that I'm really going to dive into is Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday. This was a fantastic book. It's quite small, which kind of made me laugh, but it's got a lot of great material in it. And what's interesting is this was the book for January, and it was a great addition. We did Think and Grow Rich with Napoleon Hill as well alongside this, and this was a great precursor in a way to Deep Work by Cal Newport, which we're reading right now in February. So these have been a fantastic just had a fantastic synthesis between the two of these, starting with this in January and then moving into this for February. And I'll make a video on that later, of course, but so right now I think I'm going to title this video Chapter 2, which unfortunately there's been several books in between When and this. So, but that's where I'm starting right now, just because mainly this is the first book that I've taken great notes on. And I've been using just a composition notebook. We had a bunch of these in the basement, so that's kind of what I've started with. And I realized I don't really like marking up books a lot. I know that works for people, but I prefer to keep them in good condition right now. But I know that going through a lot of these, there's a lot to learn and a lot that needs to be highlighted and things. So I'm sure that isn't going to last for very long. So, but anyway, without further ado, I'll go ahead and get into my notes on Stillness is the Key. I'm going to try and just do a very basic overview, kind of. I'm not going to do so much a review, but just things that stuck out to me, the notes I took, and things that didn't really make it onto sort of the shorter graphics that I made, so that are on the Catalyst Book Club site. So I'll go ahead and get started. The first big thing that I found that was great is really, it's not really the deepest concept, but it seems to be the most applicable and the easiest way to get yourself into that state of stillness. And what I wrote down was, give things a little space. Don't consume news in real time. Be a season or 2 behind on the latest trend or cultural phenomenon. Don't let your inbox lord over your life. The important stuff will still be important by the time you get to it. The unimportant stuff will have made its insignificance obvious. And then it follows, there's a great quote that follows after that. Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary? Knowing what not to think about, what to ignore, and what not to do. It's your first and most important job. And I thought that was, like I said, it's simple enough, right? I mean, just don't watch so much news, cut out the social media. I think that covers, Deep Work covers that as well, cutting out social media and finding time just to be still, and just accept the quiet sometimes, and that finding those opportunities, being still gives you more of those opportunities to do the deep work. So once you've kind of cut all this extraneous kind of BS out of your life, it's easier to get into the tougher stuff, finding time to meditate and learn how to clear your mind and things like that. So those, like I said, I felt like those were just very straightforward, easy ways to kind of glide into the philosophy of this book. So following that, I have this fantastic quote about a master, and I thought that those 2 quotes that I just read were a great lead into this, because once you learn to master those things in your intake and the way that you interact, like with your mind, and with yourself, I thought this was a great follow-up. A master is in control. A master has a system. A master turns the ordinary into the sacred. And I think that's great, and something I learned going through this book. I would take time in between my church services from like 12:30 to 4:30, and I would sit down with my notebook, and Stillness is the Key, and I would take several hours to put on some headphones, kind of put on some Zen music, something quiet, and just read it and take notes. And I would try to do the entire week's reading of Stillness in that moment of just a few hours. And it really started to turn into that masterful making a system, where every day in between, Sundays, using Sundays as a Sabbath is typically a difficult thing for a lot of people to master, but I was trying to use that time in between those services to keep my mind engaged in sort of a spiritual element. So that I thought was fantastic. And then it follows, this is something that I've learned the last couple of years as I've moved around and gotten engaged and done some other life things and just kind of realized what's important, especially through all of 2020 with those experiences that everybody's had. And I've just kind of realized that there's a lot that can be shed in life, and we should learn to live with less. And that's not so much the minimalist idea, but more so just that enough is enough, and that we should be content with enough. So a fantastic quote here: luxury is the wolf at the door. The possessions aren't the problem, it's the dependency. The catastrophe of success is that the way that we become less and less able to do things ourselves, the more we cannot be without a certain level of service. The comfort creep is how we get so used to a certain level of convenience and luxury that it becomes almost inconceivable that we used to live without it. And I've kind of seen that in my own life. Like I said, moving, plenty of people move for college and then move to a new town and all this stuff, but I've had several back to back and moved to California and back from to San Diego, back to Louisville, Kentucky. And it's been quite interesting to kind of shed everything from my parents' house to a college dorm to a house with some friends, and then out to California, and then from California back, and you really kind of have to realize what is important and what you need to survive, and how much fits in one or two cars, or a car and a truck. And I just became very content with living in smaller rooms, and just that everything was kind of temporary, and just learning to live in the present with very little. So, and I'm learning a little bit more of that as I try to get rid of clothes or things here and there, and as we kind of clean houses and things like that as people move out or whatever. So it's been interesting to kind of engage with that. Moving forward, I think a fantastic quote, and I did not make a graphic of this, and I probably could have. The greats know that complete freedom is a nightmare. They know that order is a prerequisite of excellence, and that in an unpredictable world, good habits are a safe haven of certainty. And I think that's what you're seeing in a lot of the sort of in the religious circles and religious political circles, and these where they overlap, that people are starting to realize that you can't run a country or a family or a society without some semblance of order. That total freedom to do whatever you want really ends up in just this like wheel of hedonism. And that's I don't know who came with that quote. I don't remember who came up with that quote, but it's freedom without duty is just the road to hedonism. And I think I've totally butchered that, but you have to have a sense of service and duty and character and moral upstandingness in order to really kind of deserve that luxury that we talk about later in Stillness. And because if you don't, things just kind of fall apart. It's like there's no foundation to a lot of that. So following that, which I thought was great, high-minded thoughts and inner work are one thing, but all that matters is what you do. The health of our spiritual ideals depends on what we do with our bodies in moments of truth. And again, that's kind of why I'm making this video. That's why I know Adam started this club, and that's why so many of us are pushing each other, especially in that higher echelon of the Catalyst 7 groups, because the goal is to put this stuff into action. It can help to read and you can feel good about it, and writing it in like a notebook like this has been great for me to kind of internalize this and read it again, write it again, and that helps kind of cement it in my mind. But then making a video about it and actually discussing it with people, and then incorporating it, like I said, by shedding things during a move, or by getting rid of apps on a cell phone or anything like that, is a great way to engage with this and learn to sit and be still and grow and work on things that are really important. So it's really true that what matters is what you do. You can have something I learned in my time acting with people here in Louisville and making films was everybody has these grand ideas, and everybody has this, what's that movie, Rosebud? It's, anyway, with the I'm forgetting. My mind is drawing a complete blank, but it's the whole movie about the sled and Rosebud, and he's Orson Welles. Anyway, his movie where that everybody has that Citizen Kane of a film, and it's always like their first one, right? It's always their first one. It's just the greatest thing that's ever been made. And how many people don't make that film? You know, and usually your first one is terrible, right? But there are so many people that have that in their mind, or they've gotten it to paper and then they've never done anything farther than that, you know? Or like me, I end up making this stuff and then I never edit it, you know? And that's a big problem for me, is just finishing. And I think that's part of the stillness and the deep work is, you know, I have to complete something. So that's something I've learned with these, and setting these days like Sundays to do work like this, you know? So I'm really kind of getting towards the end here, but something I thought that really stuck with me, and I think the story goes let's see if I can find this. I started writing all the page numbers too, and that really helps. Let me see if I can find this for you. It was the story of Ulysses S. Grant, and I want to read that real quick. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it was on page 71 here. Before the Civil War, Grant experienced a long chain of setbacks, and he washed up in St. Louis selling firewood for a living, a hard fall for a graduate of West Point. An army buddy found him and was aghast. "Great God, Grant, what are you doing?" he asked. Grant's answer was simple: "I am solving the problem of poverty." So I thought that was great because, you know, you have this moment where Ulysses is kind of got this play on words in a way where he is solving the problem of poverty, right? But really for who? It's not for the world, right? It's in this here and now, at his lowest moment, he is solving his poorness. He's poor, he has no money, and he's going to fix that. And I thought that was just a great way to sum up the character of the man, you know? We have, as I grew up, we kind of had this image of Ulysses S. Grant as this hardened alcoholic war general that became president, right? Which I think is the story around his life. But that just was such a funny moment to me, that he had this like moment of concise clarity where he wasn't worried about the rest of the world or what was going on out there. He was fixing his poverty. And I think there's a great lesson in that. You know, as much as people want to think that we can solve that around the world, or homelessness or water issues or, you know, hunger all over the world, we will never solve those. The world will always throw us things like disease and poverty and whatever, and I don't think we'll ever truly solve that globally, as much as we can try, which doesn't mean we shouldn't try. I think there is a noble effort in doing those things and doing for other people. But in this moment, in this book, in that story of his life, I thought that was just a beautiful moment where nothing else really mattered except the noble effort of taking a simple act of solving your own poverty and getting your hands dirty and doing it. And I thought that was great. So I'm really going to wrap it up here. I really don't have too much more. I thought, again, that image of Grant doing that was just a great way to tie in a lot of what this book talks about. Like, sit down, be still, clear your mind, focus on the task at hand. And again, I think this is a great phrase that wraps up the whole idea of the book. I can't pronounce the French, I'm not going to try, and I only have kind of the second half written down. I think there was two parts to this statement, but it's what's essential is invisible to the eye. What's essential is invisible to the eye. And I thought that was a fantastic way to summarize the whole book, because, you know, the work of doing the reading here and, you know, highlighting it or note-taking, you know, in something like this, those are kind of the first steps, you know. That is where these ideas take root and where you can start to change things up here and things in here. And you have to sit down and take the time to read it, you know. And then you can have great conversations with people in your book club, in your family, with your friends, all kinds of stuff. And then, but really what is important is that you do, like that other quote says, that what's important is what you do. And I think that's a great reason to join the book club, the Catalyst Book Club, with Adam and Russ and all the others. Because really the idea is that we're encouraging each other. You know, we're going to be reading some interesting books coming up. We're going to be reading, we have Principles. I don't know if you can see that, but we have Principles here. We've been doing that this month as well. We're going to be doing the Work Principles next month, and then we're going to do a book on obesity and learning to fast. And again, it's books like that that are going to encourage us to do the work, to sit down and do the effort, write up a plan, write up whatever you need to, take notes and engage. So like I said, I think that's a fantastic book to start these videos off again with. It really was a great way, like I said, to synthesize going into deep work and to kind of set that up for a home run. They've been great, very, very compatible books, and I'm looking forward to doing some more videos. Again, I'm sorry that I've been behind. I've been focusing on the graphics quite a bit and doing some other things, so I hope to do these more regularly, maybe once or twice a month, because we do 2 books a month, and I just want to make sure that I'm providing sufficient content and also growing in my own way, because I enjoyed the note-taking and the reading and the note-taking and then doing something like this. So yeah, again, thank you for watching. If you made it this far, I really appreciate you being here, and I hope that you've learned something or found some interest in what I found interesting. So thank you again for joining us in this next chapter of this story, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks.